Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Nur Shahira binti Ahmad Safawi. My matrix number is DE200093. So today our group will doing final presentation for our project, which is More Robot Sanitizer. Next, this is group member for group 4, which is me, Nur Shahira binti Ahmad Safawi, Abu Ayah bin Murad, Muhammad Syamil bin Ilyas, Richie Ego anak Rapai, and lastly Muhammad Edri bin Omar. Basically, this is our contents that we will explain in our presentation, which is introduction, problem statement, objective, scope of project, literature review, methodology, result analysis, recommendation for future work, and lastly 3D model with label. Next, for contribution, I will explain about the introduction, problem statement, and objective. Adri will explain about the theories, cause and effect, and function analysis. Syamil will explain about the contradiction, Invective principle, and S-curve. Rachel will explain about the literature review, methodology, and purpose solution. And lastly, Abu Ahya will explain about the result and analysis, recommendation, and 3D models. Firstly, I will explain about the introduction. During this pandemic, the government has regulated that it is compulsory to use hand sanitizer and wear mask when going out. So, PDRM will take the symbolic act on individuals who violate the new regulation. People are also encouraged to avoid touching surface in order to avoid transmission of germ and virus. So, here we are going to create the innovating and creating a COVID-19 technology which is promote touchless interface as well as encourage people to always sanitize their hand when going out. Next, I will continue with problem statement. As we know, Malaysia are at the high risk for the virus during their daily activity. Hand hygiene is a very important method in order to avoid transmission of harmful germs and virus. Since hands are the main pathway of germ transmission, we are required to avoid touching surface with our fingertips and always keep our hands clean by washing them or sanitize them. So, this More Sanitizer Robot project is created to encourage people and remind people to always sanitize their hand as well as to promote a touchless interface technology which will prevent people from touching surface. So, this is the objective for our project, which is to design the technology which will promote a touchless interface as well as to encourage people to always sanitize their hand. Second, to reduce the transmission of harmful germs like COVID-19 virus and prevent infection among people.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Edri bin Omar, matric number DE200043. So for today I'll be explaining about the scope of our project, which includes the related theories, function analysis, and cause effects. To start off my presentation, I will start with the related electromagnetic theories, which is radiation laws of the black body. So every body of object shows very diverse radiation properties. Therefore, it has been deemed important to initially consider the simplified laws of a model body of ideal radiation properties to be then applied to actual occurring objects. This model body is known in radiation physics as the black body. It distinguishes itself by the fact that of all bodies of equal temperature, it shows the largest possible emitted radiation. So the Planck's radiation law represents the principal correlation regarding non-contact temperature measuring. Due to its abstract nature, however, it is not directly applicable in this form to many practical calculations. For example, the spectral radiation intensity across all wavelengths, the value of the entire radiation emitted by the body is obtained. This correlation is called the Stefan-Boltzmann law. The radiation laws of the black body can also be formulated using the Planck radiation formula as shown, and the graph shows that the spectral composition varies with the object temperature. Bodies of a temperature of beyond 500 degrees Celsius, for example, also emit radiation in the visible range. Furthermore, it must be noted that at each wavelength, radiation intensity increases with rising temperature. Due to its simple mathematical correlation, it is well suited for rough estimates, particularly when calculating the heat balance of objects as well as interrelations of total radiation parameters. However, the spectrum measuring range of most measuring devices is usually strongly limited, and therefore this equation is inapplicable to this purpose. And so, the lower the temperature of the object to be measured, the further its radiation maximum shifts toward larger wavelengths. It is about 10 pico m when close to room temperature. The level of transmittance of air is strongly dependent on wavelength. Ranges of high attenuation alternate with ranges of high transmittance, and so called the atmospheric window. Next is the cause and effect chain, which is the risk of transmitting viruses will be caused by not sanitizing hand, which is caused also by insufficient money to buy sanitizer, also caused by poverty, and not sanitizing hand is also caused by ignorance. Other than that, risk of transmitting virus is caused by touching surfaces, which is caused by a lack of touchless system. On the other hand, risk of transmitting viruses is caused by does not wear masks, which is also caused by insufficient money to buy masks, which is also caused by poverty. And other reasons that people does not wear masks is to forget to wear masks and ignorance. And finally, the risk of transmitting virus is caused by does not practice social distancing, which is also caused by crowded spaces, and which is also caused by SOP rule not applied meticulously. And the other reason for not practicing social distancing is ignorance. So finally, for my part is the function analysis, which is the high temperature will cause lag to the programmer. The camera will notify the programmer, sensor will notify the programmer, and the programmer will notify the robot. Other than that, the user will be detected by camera. The LCD will display the user will be detected by sensor, and the user will be reminded by the speaker. User will also be notified by the alarm. And for the robot is powered up using battery, which is charged up by USB port. The robot will release hand sanitizer. The robot will ring the alarm. The robot is turned on by using a button, and the robot is able to move using a wheel, which is able to be punctured by sharp object. That is all. Thank you.
My name is Muhammad Syamil bin Ilyas and my measurement number is DE200127. So now I am going to be presenting onto the contradiction. First of all, it is to adding a sensor. On the positive side, it avoid us from touching the surface of the hand sanitizer. But for the negative part is that the system to materialize it become a bit much more complex. And then for the second thing is when we decrease the size of the robot, for the improving parameter, the weight of the robot decreases. Meanwhile, for the worsening parameter, the robot become much more fragile rather than having a bigger state of the robot size. For the next part is for the metal use of the robot body. On the positive side, the strengthness of the robot is increases, while for the negative side, the weight of the robot also increases and makes it much more harder for it to move around. And for the last contradiction is the increased size of the sanitizer tank. For the improving parameter, it allows us to store more volume of sanitizer and to be used in longer period of time, while for the worsening parameter, the weight of the robot increases. Next, we are going on to the inventive principle. First of all, for the feedback inventive principle, it used the sensor to detect for the various purposes, allowing programmer to send a signal to the driver to execute actions which refer to the release of the sanitizer, break the robot, and for display temperature. And next, for the blessing in disguise, even though the use of battery cannot compensate for the usage for full working day, but it is much more environmental friendly and avoid emission compared using petrol. And for the lastly is a pneumatic and hydraulic issues in the brake system, adjust brake level according to the set given, and it is much more efficient in avoiding collision. And for the last part, it is for the S-curve of the hand sanitizer. Before COVID, most of us use the normal way of liquid sanitizer, which is sold in pharmacy. And then after the emerging of the COVID cases, the packaging of the hand sanitizer improved from having a normal bottle liquid sanitizer into smaller bottle spray sanitizer that allows us to move and store to everywhere we go. And then after the spray sanitizer is introduced, how to hand sanitizer is also is then introduced to be used much more efficiently for people at malls, especially going into big places such as malls, mosques, and hospital. And lastly is the sanitizer spray machine is developed to increase the efficiency of the sanitizer to be sprayed all over the body and to provide greater insurance against COVID-19. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Richard Rapai, DE200117. So I'm going to explain to you the literature review. So in the field of robotics, there's appears several autonomous as well as manual-based cleaning robots beside the invented project. For example, it's like the vacuum cleaner robot. Mostly, the automatic vacuum cleaner robot is widely used nowadays, where it is intelligently programmed to clean the house, office, and also shop. Thus, the project that we built here is slightly different compared to the vacuum cleaner robot, where it cleans the hands of the people who contains a virus or the bacteria that stays on their palms after contact with object or paper. As we all have experience, automatic things, robots are way more convenient than manual-based machines where we don't need to apply much energy to work or use it. The robot that is designed comes with IR sensor, which works in detecting accurate temperature and detecting the range only where the hands are close to the faucet, helps in avoiding the waste of sanitizer. Okay, so for the methodology, so first one is the working methodology. First, we need to switching on the device, checking for the obstacles, then hand sanitizing, and then detecting the temperature. For design methodology, for the first one, understand the problem faced. Then the next one, develop several solutions to tackle the problems, and then decide the best solution, and then design the prototype, and lastly is to validate the prototype. Okay, so for the proposed solution, first we're going to use the trees, so which is a powerful methodology for creating problem solving. Okay, as you can see in the diagram, they have three general problem and then three general solution to your specific solution, and then your specific problem is to the general problem of the trees. So we're going to analyze the problem and analytic use of the trees database, thinking by analogy to develop the specific solution, and then analysis of problems and analytic use of the trees database. So the arrow represents the transformation from one formulation of the problem or solution to another. So the right side is the problems and the solutions. Here we have the problems, which is the first one is how to spread awareness and method to reach out about environment problems, technology required to make product, which method of presentation required, how to make the product user friendly, how to make the product be used anywhere, product liability and malfunctioning occurrence, how to create a multifunctional product. And then for solutions for the problems, the first one is creating an electronic based approach and a suitable technique, using programming technique, running test cases, further programming improvement, product size is adjusted so that material is user friendly, making it a multifunctional product.
Hello, I'm Abu Akhir bin Murad, matrix number DE200096, and now I'm gonna present the results and analysis, recommendations for visual and the 3D models of our project More Robot Sanitizer. So for the results and analysis, this is the flowchart for the More Robot Sanitizer. So to start, we switch on the robot, and the robot will start moving around the mall, searching for people. And at the same time, the robot will remind the people to sanitize themselves. And if the robot detect object or people 1 meter from its distance, it will stop moving. If not, it will continue searching for people. So when it stop moving, if it detect hand under the faucet, it will release the sanitizer and then check the user's body temperature. If not, it will go straight checking the user's body temperature. And if the temperature exceeding 37.5 Celsius, the alarm will be turned on to notify the user, and it will display the temperature on the LCD. But if it doesn't exceed 37.5 Celsius, it will still display the value on the LCD. And after that, the robot will continue moving around the mall searching for other user. To stop the robot, simply switch off the button of the robot. So this is the analysis from the test we made on the robot. So what we found out is, first, IR sensor range is lacking. What we noticed is that the robot can only detect the hands when it is really close to the faucet before releasing the hand sanitizer. Second, the IR sensor for evading the obstacle is not really suitable. Like we mentioned before, it is lacking in range. And as for the second reason, the IR sensor are unable to measure the distance of the robot to the obstacles or object. Third, the IR sensor works decently for detecting the temperature of the user. How we done the test for this case is by comparing the value of the IR sensor to the value using the hospital's thermometer. And what we found out is that the value for both are close to each other. Next, the robot have just enough battery to work to 8 hours. And last, the speaker of the robot is not loud enough. When we are 5 meters apart from the robot, we notice that we cannot hear the speaker. And when we play loud music on top of the robot, we rarely hear the speaker. This is the table for the result of the test we made. So for the sensor detection test, when the hand distance from the robot to the sensor is 10 mm to 50 mm, the sensor can detect the hand. As for 60 mm and above, the sensor cannot detect the hand. As for the speaker sound test, this is the test where we play the loud music on top of the speaker. So for the distance of 50 cm to 150 cm, we can hear the speaker. As for 200 cm and above, we cannot hear the speaker. Now onto the recommendation for future work. First, we suggest to use LCD instead of speaker. Why? So based on the previous result we had, we noticed that the speaker isn't light enough. So if we are to use the robot on a mall, which are usually crowded by people, we think that it is more suitable to use the LCD, which are more noticeable to the people around. Second, we suggest to use remote control instead of the switch on, switch off button. This is to avoid the robot getting switched off by people, especially kids, and it is to give a full control to the management to control the robot. Third, we suggest to use the robot in a smaller mall or in a certain shop. So we noticed that the robot can only cover 85% of the mall, of the big mall. So to increase the efficiency of the robot, we suggest to use in smaller mall or certain shop. This also will help reducing the battery usage, and the hand sanitizer brought by the robot will be sufficient to people around. And last, we suggest to use distance sensor instead of proximity sensor, because distance sensor can calculate the distance from the robot to the user or object, and it's also more accurate and more easy to use than the proximity sensor. Now onto the 3D models of more robot sanitizer. So from here we can see we had the switch on and switch off button to power on or power off the robot. And on the ear we have the hazard light or alarm to notify the user if their body temperature is exceeding 37.5 Celsius. For the camera, we have the camera on the eye, which can detect the body's temperature, and we have the sensor too. The robot also have USB port to charge, and speaker to notify people around to sanitize their hands. And then on the robot's body, we have the temperature display or LCD to display the value of their temperature, and we have the body sanitizer and the hand sanitizer. Thank you.
So that's all from us. Thank you for spending your time.